experience since the subways have been around for the last 108 years, courtesy of the evil Sandy.
An evacuation has been underway this morning in the towns of
evil fucking psychopaths.
North Jersey, because of flooding. Ralph Verdi is the police chief in Little Ferry.
Right now, about 75% of our town is underwater. We're in full swing with evacuations. We're doing boat evacuations. We have water as deep as 6 to 8 feet in sections.
Gene Barata, Chief of Staff for the Bergen County Executive, says Moonachie has lost its fire department, police department, and its municipal building. There are no reports of injuries at this time.
More than 4 million customers in the tri-state are without power. 712,000 are Con Ed customers in New York City and Westchester. 250,000 of them are in Lower Manhattan.
85% of JCP&L customers in New Jersey are out. PSE&G has 1 million customers out.
On Long Island, 81% of LIPA customers are without power. That's 946,000 customers.
Connecticut Light and Power has nearly 500,000 customers out, with United illuminating about 144,000.
Orange and Rockland with 200,000 customers out. NYSEG reporting 57,000 outages in Orange, Putnam, and Westchester. And the bad news with all those numbers is they really haven't come down at all since we came on the air earlier this morning.
Yeah, they're going to stick there for a while. It's going to take some time. WCBS News Time 9:33. At least 14 people have been killed in the storm in the tri-state area. Pretty much mostly by falling trees. 9 of the deaths were in New York. Trees killed 2 boys in North Salem and adults in Greenberg, Pearl River, Roslyn, Lloyd Harbor.
Count's going to be a lot higher than that.
Island, a tidal surge in Tottenville caused the collapse of 4 homes, killing 1 person. In New Jersey, falling trees killed a man and woman in Mendham Township and a man in Hawthorne. While in Connecticut, a tree fell into power lines, electrocuting a man in Mansfield. In Easton, Connecticut, a firefighter was killed when a tree crushed his fire truck.
River flooding was the concern in Cranford, New Jersey, but it was falling trees that turned out to be the problem. WCBS's Jim Smith caught up with a family who narrowly avoided dredge.
Out of stranded homes, so they were extraordinary.
It seems at first light this morning that we're just now beginning to get a handle on the true enormity of the challenge ahead, aren't we?
Yes, and it's going to be worse than we thought, I think. The water damage is much more pervasive than you think. You had flooding all through downtown Manhattan, for example. That's not just the subway tunnels. And when you flood a subway tunnel with salt water, it gets very complicated very quickly. That's where the Con Ed lines are. That's where the Con Ed transformers are. Subway tunnels don't get flooded. I was on the phone last night with the subway expert who said in 30 years he had never seen this kind of damage done before. You had buildings with their foundations, their basements flooded. All the systems flooded. The electrical systems flooded. The heating systems flooded. You could smell fuel oil in the water last night in downtown Manhattan. So once the water recedes and once the sun comes out and you can actually see the extent of the damage, it's going to be much worse. Not to mention flooding of homes and basements and yards and small businesses. So yes, this New York doesn't normally deal with floods. Other parts of the country, it's a frequent reality. We don't do floods, and we don't do water damage by and large.
You do now.
And it is devastating.
And if certainly the pure density of New York makes it
Mr. Obama for this one
of a big deal. And it's not going to be like New York for some time to come if we don't have subways running, right?
It is not going to, well, look, it will always be New York because New York is New York. You just let one New Yorker smile at you, right? And that's New York. But the subway will come up, my guess is, in pieces. Joe Loda, who's just extraordinary at his job, is doing a full assessment this morning. There are people in the tracks. But my guess is it will come up in pieces and be restored over a period of time. Buses obviously will go up quicker. Again, we had taken.
I just started a new job in Manhattan.
But there will be a long-term recovery here, as opposed to 2 or 3, 4 days, and we're up on our feet again.
Governor, President Obama has given the disaster declaration for New York and Long Island. How much is that going to help, and how soon do you think the money can get here to be put to use?
I spoke to President Obama twice yesterday. He has been extraordinary. His team has been extraordinary.
Extraordinary psychopath.
Declarations are very important to us because they say that the work we're doing, the money we're expending, can be reimbursed by the federal government. Wall, which literally holds back the Hudson River. And the fear was that the wall may have been breached, and that's where the water was coming from. It was so disorienting. You couldn't tell if the water was coming from the river, the Hudson River, across West Street and into the pit and into the foundation, by the way, of One World Trade Center, or if it was filling from underneath, if you understand what I'm trying to communicate. If it was filling from underneath, it meant the wall, the retaining wall, the bathtub, as they describe it, had cracked. So we literally went down 7 stories, and luckily, thank God, the wall was intact, and the water was coming from the Hudson, which had come all the way across West Street. We have the Army. I met the Army Corps of Engineers there last night. They've begun a massive pumping operation, and then we'll have a structural assessment done later today.
We've heard before about what could be possibly the big one for a massive hurricane for New York City. This certainly was it, wasn't it?
We have heard before, yes. And we have seen a pattern of increasing extreme weather conditions.
Yes, we sure have.
Now, this may be the most dramatic, but if you think back, well, from my own experience, as I said, I did disaster work for 8 years in the continent. I can count on one hand in 12 years the number of weather crises they had. I can count, I've only been governor less than 2 years, and I think I've had more extreme weather situations than my father had in 12. This is a new phenomenon.
Yeah, it sure is.
And
psychopath.
We
It's
dig
called
out from
fucking
this,
Haarp.
and we learn from this. I think these are situations that we're going to have to take into consideration. Things like
damage on each and every one of New Jersey's rail lines. Large sections of track were washed out on the New Jersey coastline. Numerous power lines and trees have fallen along New Jersey Transit railways across the state. Several rail bridges damaged by storm surge,
I like Chris
including
Christie.
boats and other debris lodged on the railroad tracks. New Jersey Transit rail station hubs at Hoboken, Secaucus,
They got to piss off the wrong guy with this one.
were also impacted significantly by flooding. New Jersey Transit's rail operation complex in Kearny is fully surrounded by floodwaters, which came during the height of the storm. Regarding our drinking water, we're seeing numerous water supply issues because of flooding and power loss. We currently have at least 10 facilities with minor to major problems. On wastewater treatment facilities, we have at least 13 facilities again with minor to major operational issues due to flooding and loss of power. Commissioner Martin, the DEP, is working with all these facilities to see how we can bring them power supply, equipment, and resources to help bring them back online as soon as possible. In terms of our healthcare facilities, a total of 91 healthcare facilities have reported that they lost street power. This includes 29 hospitals, 58 long-term care facilities, and others. However, we're expecting this number to increase as people call them in. Some are reporting phone problems in their ability to be able to phone in issues to us. Most are managing well, and many are using generator power to be able to continue to care for their patients. Department of Health has requested 100 ambulances from the FEMA ambulance contract, and we have received assistance from numerous other states. Lastly, before I take questions, upstairs in the conference room that we're using to manage this crisis, we just were given a look for the first time of portions of the Jersey Shore by State Police helicopter who was operating their cameras and relaying the images back. We looked at Lavalette, Ortley Beach, Seaside Heights, and Seaside Park. All of them are nearly completely underwater. Houses are moved off of their foundations. There are houses in the middle of Route 35. The amusement pier at Seaside Park is essentially half washed out. I don't know whether it's the roller coaster or the log flume is now in the ocean. The second pier, the more southerly pier, is also significantly damaged, and some of those amusements are now in the ocean. The level of devastation at the Jersey Shore is unthinkable. And we know that there are many people who own homes, who we've evacuated, who are going to want to get back onto the island to assess the damage to their homes. We are nowhere near being able to let you back onto the island. There is no place. I'm leaving here soon after this press conference to go and tour. There's no place for me to land on the barrier islands. So we're going to have to get to brick is about as close as I can get to see if the rest of it we have to see from the air. So with the instability of infrastructure on the barrier islands, we haven't been able to assess the natural gas situation and others. We know there's no power. It would be completely unsafe for homeowners to think about today or any time in the next couple of days going back onto those barrier islands. So we want everyone to remain patient in that regard. I will report back fully to you at my press briefing this afternoon what I see. Today we'll be taking press with us on a pool basis so that you can see what I see from the helicopters and report back to the public as well. But to prepare the public for what they're going to see, it is beyond anything I thought I'd ever see. Terrible. And so we need to remain
it's called your psycho government.
We'll let the waters recede, and then we can go in and make a full assessment about rebuilding that area of the Jersey Shore. But it is a devastating sight right now. So we have a lot of work to do. I have absolute confidence in the fact that we'll be able to do it and do it together. I have confidence in the fact that we'll have complete support from the President of the United States and the federal authorities. I think it's very important, though, for me today, now that at least the wind has let up a little bit, to see it myself, so that when I talk to the President later today, I can tell him personally exactly what I've seen, to give him the full measure of the devastation that's happened to our state. No question in my mind, given the reports that I've seen so far, that the devastation that's happened to New Jersey is beyond what's happened to anyone else, at least from the reports that I've seen so far. And that should come as no shock since the storm made landfall here. So I want to tell the people of the state who are able to listen to this, who have power or watching in some way, we are going to make sure that we do everything we can to get through this as quickly as possible, to restore conditions in the state to normalcy as soon as we can. And you can count on the fact that I'll be working with the folks here standing behind me and the folks they represent every waking hour to make sure that we get this going as quickly as we can. But the devastation is unprecedented, like nothing we've ever seen reported before. And so we need to keep that in mind in terms of gauging our expectations for how quickly this will happen.
The devastation in your fucking government.
That's what I have. Happy to take some questions.
Insanity.
Yeah, there were two people who were killed in Mendham. I've not gotten the names yet. What I'm told is that it was two parents and two children in a pickup truck. But the parents got out of the pickup truck for some reason, and a tree collapsed and fell on the two parents and killed them. The two children, 11 and 14, were injured, but alive in the car.
Behind you, that is a massive storm, and it's affecting people throughout the Midwest.
Look at the size of this thing. That is the other thing. We talked about how large a storm Sandy was for days, but just look at the expanse of it all around the Midwest, the southern states, and back up into parts of New England, even southeastern Canada. If you measure it roughly from one end to the other, it's about, it's more than 800 miles. It's almost 900 miles across when you look at the entire circulation.
Just a natural storm.
no, it's just not affecting the weather here. We're still seeing rain bands, even some thunderstorms that are moving in across parts of Maine and South
satanic
Canada on the backside of
storm from hell.
in Michigan, the Great Lakes. There's storm warnings there because the winds are so strong. They're seeing coastal flooding in parts of the Great Lakes and even some lake effect snow there. And speaking of snow, this has been a monster of a blizzard that the storm created across West Virginia and parts of Maryland. In the mountains there, they've received more than 2 feet of snow. And then even down across the Carolinas, they're getting windy conditions and rain showers.
I heard some place in the Pennsylvania got 6 foot of snow. They're opening up early for ski season.
Flooding, storm surge across our area yesterday, and wind gusts and low pressure. So closer to home, when we zoom in on our small part of it, we're only getting some spot showers here and there. That was expected in the forecast for today, and it will be in the forecast once again.
Towns in New Jersey and Connecticut without power won't be able to use the voting machines, and often the place where the polling, the election takes place is the school or the civic center, and that might be still in use as a shelter. So it's a big problem. You can't move a presidential election to another date without a constitutional amendment. You can do it with local elections, but I don't think you can do it with a presidential election. So the answer would be, I guess they would have to go to absentee ballots or something like that for everybody, which would delay the results of the election. Anyway, let's go to Susan's in Long Island. Susan, where are you in Long Island?
Just so happens it could take 2 weeks to get all our power back, and that'll be just after the election. How convenient is that? He just said they're going to call it Helloween instead of Halloween.
Do you think after this people will leave this place? Not want to live here anymore? There'll be a majority that want to leave.
Well,
Breezy's a beautiful place to live.
that's what Halloween's all about, worshiping Satan.
Like I said, he was absolutely one of the lucky ones in Breezy Point as it goes. We've seen those pictures.
Halloween,
story about the 111 homes that burned. It is an unreal image to see it in person. There are homes simply gone, fires still burning, pieces of cinder blocks scattered all around, pieces of chimneys sticking up, pieces of brick walls that look like you can't tell what they used to belong to, just scattered around this field, hundreds of yards square. It was called earlier today on the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley, perhaps the largest residential fire in recent history in New York City, at least in the recent memory of anyone who has seen it. That's from Breezy Point in Queens on the Rockaway Peninsula. WCBS News Time 8:25.
Halloween. That's what we got here, folks.
Which doesn't always leave a lot of time to look
Ghostbusters.
The gas lines are just crazy, so obviously be very careful about the gas gauge on your car. Howland Tunnel, Battery Tunnel, Midtown Tunnel, they're all closed.
That was absolutely the case, because I saw in person some of the pictures that we've been seeing, which look like something out of World War II in Europe. The only way you can describe it is that a bomb, looks like a bomb fell on this place.
That's exactly what happened. A heart bomb.
By fire, foundations sticking up out of the ground, charred foundations, some fires still burning. You could smell the ash. You could see twisted telephone poles sticking jaggedly where houses used to be, pieces of brick walls. You don't even know what part of the house that used to be. Pieces of wood just mangled, people walking around with their heads down, just trying to take it all in. That was the scene. One of the more incredible things I have ever had to see here in New York City. I spoke to a man. His name was Larry Kelly. He was coming home to one house that did not burn, but it was taken off its foundation 50 feet and twisted 45 degrees to the side. I asked him what was going through his mind, and he said to me one thing: my wife cannot see this. I cannot let her see this. That was the only thing that he could say, that he could think at that moment, coming back for the first time to see his home.
We go to traffic.
Well, she's going to see it. You can be sure of that.
Depicting the devastation wrought by the hurricane that morphed into a nor'easter. WCBS reporter Marla Diamond spells out what some of it looked like firsthand.
President Obama and Governor Christie saw the damage from up high, but the up-close view in Spring Lake was unbelievable. Richard and Barbara Weeks of Spring Lake Heights were among the many taking pictures.
You see the power of Mother Nature.
Yeah.
I know. Can you describe this?
The power of heart.
And the houses facing the ocean even now are beachfront property. Look at the sand in front of their houses.
Restoration was already beginning, and Dave Frick of Wall Township was glad to see it.
Yeah, I think Christy said it yesterday. It's going to show the resolve. But the thing is, I mean, the beach and the shore that we know, that we grew up with, is gone.
Thanks to our lovely government and their fucking Haarp insanity.
880 News.
The toll of the storm in terms of lives lost across New York now stands at 30. Governor Andrew Cuomo's office confirming the statewide death toll. The number continues to change as reports come in from first responders. There are at least 22 deaths reported in New York City, 4 in Westchester, 2 in Suffolk County, and 1 each in Ulster and Rockland counties. There are 12 confirmed storm-related deaths in New Jersey. WCBS News Time, 9:13.
Yeah, death tolls up to 60, and they're still counting.
In today's world, no neighborhood is
What they're doing is they're testing out these fucking Haarp weapons on us. They want to see what happens.
For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only.
They bring these fucking insane hurricanes and stuff in, and with full moons and high tides and nor'easters, and just see how much hell they can fucking create. And they're doing it to us here in the United States, because they run out of other countries to do it, so now they're turning their shit on us. The rest of the world's starting to wake up to their shit. These fucking stupid Americans still don't have a fucking clue what's going on.
Chief of Staff says the town is underwater and as many as 1,000 people may have to get out. Lori Bordonero is live in Moonachie right now with more. Lori, good morning.
Good morning. Well, we're really seeing just how powerful this storm is. We're here in Moonachie, as you said, and this town basically under about 5 feet of water. I'm going to step out of the way here because just a few minutes ago, some of these cars trying to get through this area here on Moonachie Avenue, and looks like they're pretty much stuck deciding whether they should back up or continue to go. There is a car a little bit further down there that is stuck. And what's going on here is basically that some tidal gates on one of the creeks here that leads into the Hackensack River, those broke, and that's what happened here. All of this water surged into Moonachie and some of the neighboring towns here as well.
This thing's going to be worse than Katrina.
Carlstad, Hackensack, South Hackensack.
Because it's going to affect so many people.
Dozens of streets here all flooded, and thousands of people are stranded in their
Well, if I don't start hanging people now, I don't know what it's going to take.
Some of the fire officials, the police officials
this is all hard.
from here, as well as neighboring towns, they've got about 40 water rescue boats, and they're basically bringing in those water rescue boats, and they are going door to door trying to rescue people and bring them to higher ground. Some people have decided to stay, hoping that this water will recede, but at this point they're just waiting for rescue crews to come by, go door to door, and take them out safely. We did speak to one woman who decided not to wait for